Hi, this is Misha.
And this is Jay.
And this is Q&A part 2 or episode 2 or whatever. It's April. It's the Q&A for April.
April 2018 Q&A.
Yep.
Patreon Q&A.
Yep, for our people who just donate even a small sum, we're happy to take questions. Happy to take questions anyway, but I don't know. So, yeah, what do we have for this month? I know we have a number of them to get through today.
I think we had 17 questions all told for the April Q&A. And if you're interested in posting a question, we take questions from anyone from $1 up. So you can check the link below for the Patreon link if you want to be a contributor.
Yep.
So, first question, let's jump right into it. Dave R. asks, what is one gun you could never bring yourself to sell regardless of offering and why? Sentimentality, rarity, etc.
Well, I think the cat wants to answer, but I'm not sure she'd be intelligible. So, Jay, why don't you go first?
For me, thinking about this is probably my Archer. That's the Polish Archer, the 223 AK, made in Poland. They were a very short time import, and they weren't particularly popular for some reason. I think people just didn't like the way that they looked. But it's an amazing rifle, and I have an extensive Polish collection, and it would not be something that could be easily replaced. So it's been a go-to rifle for me. I shoot it all the time and love it. And we'll probably do another follow-up video on it. I've actually got the Primary Arms, their new ACSS reticle that just came out that I'll be trying out on it because I think it'll be a good fit. So we'll do.
And there's some, Arms of America is continuing to bring in new FB parts and accessories, so we should have some new stuff to try out too.
So we'll do a follow up on some of that stuff. And you've seen it already in a bunch of videos of ours.
Oh yeah.
That's definitely one that would be very, very low on the list of guns that I would sell.
And the funny thing about that, I remember when you were wanting to get you wanted a non-AR-15 and 223,
yep.
And I suggested the Archer, and I'm not going to say reluctantly, but you weren't jumping over the moon to get one. And when you first got it, you went out and shot it, and you called me, and you were not very happy because you were, was it Tula?
It was Tula.
Yeah,
yep.
And it was getting like, what, 4 MOA?
Yeah, roughly.
But now that you started using other stuff, it's
the groups have tightened up considerably on it.
So it was kind of funny.
That was the last time I bought Tula ammo. That's when I realized, this is an ammo.
He was he wasn't mad at me. He was just, I could tell in his voice he was kind of down.
Disappointed.
Yeah, you're kind of, so yeah, it's kind of, and now it's went from that to one of your most indispensable guns.
Yep, sure.
For me, I'm going to give 2 answers because I almost basically have 2 collections. I have my old historical collection, which I don't really shoot because a lot of them you can't get the parts for. And the others are my shooters that you see us out with all the time. Mm-hmm. And for the old guns, I would have to say, I'm going to go with my Japanese end, and I'm going to have to say probably my baby Nambu, because it took me years to talk my wife into letting me buy one. I don't normally consult her. I mean, we do our own thing, but anything that's expensive, you kind of can't just drop on your partner, the cost of a used car. So it's in nice shape. I will never find another one, and it's just a cool little gun, and kind of wraps up the Japanese. For the new stuff, if we're just talking, we'll just say AKs, keep it easy. I'd probably have to say my SAR-1 because it was my first. I sold it off to a family member and then bought it back. So that should tell you right there, and I don't think I'll ever sell it off again. Interesting side note, if you watched our video where I talk about that SAR-1, I said that a friend from high school met me in college. We realized we were in the same apartment complex, and we went out kind of maybe a little drinking, and then the next day went and bought an AK because he said you couldn't buy one that was during the assault weapons ban. He actually made contact with me last month after having spoken with him in 15 years. He actually bought a Tavor, but that's neither here nor there. But it was a funny conversation we'll tell about in another video. But yeah, I made contact with an old friend because of that gun again.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Mark B says, I just got a Swiss SG551P and thinking of making it a carbine. Where do I get the 2-inch extension to have pinned and welded like you used on yours? And also, do I need to file any paperwork with the ATF to make a carbine from a pistol?
first question, you get it from MM, which is not M plus M Colorado Gun Sales. It's actually Michael's Machines. He's out of Illinois. He's the gentleman that did the 551 SPs, the Louisiana ones we had a few years ago on here. And he also, that 551 LB for that matter. But yeah, he is actually making those to order. At first, he was very, very low, but after these 551Ps came in, he did another run of 100, which should be enough to cover the current imports. And the last time I spoke with him, he said, sure, people can give him a call. So I wasn't trying to be cagey when not saying before, but before he didn't want his name out there because he didn't have many, but he just gave up and made more. So yeah, contact Mike at Michael's Machines. For question 2, no, it's perfectly legal to turn a pistol into a carbine. It is not legal to turn a carbine into a pistol. All you need to do, first install the extension so you're over 16 inches, then put your stock on. That's the only key point. Don't put your stock and then do your extension, because technically the gun would be an illegal SBR for the interval. But no, nothing else you have to do.
Next question. Cason B asks, in your opinion, what were the best and worst bolt-action rifles of the two world wars?
Best and worst. That's really difficult because each nation, each military had its own requirements. For example, on one end of the spectrum, Switzerland. Very trained, very educated military, and also a very defensive one. So something like a Schmidt-Rubin or a K31, very intricate, very well made, also very expensive, worked well for them. On the other end of the spectrum, you had, of course, the Mosin Nagant, which was perfect for the Russian conscript. It was cheap to make, it was durable, and it's just really unbreakable. And so if you had given a K31 to a Russian conscript, the Germans would have said thank you, probably. It wouldn't have worked well for them, plus the cost. To answer the question, though, World War I. I really am a fan of the P14 and M1917, that pattern, because it's very robust, very durable. It had very good sights for that era. It didn't have those little notch. It actually had a peep, and it was a longer sight radius. A little heavy, but this is World War I, so, weight. The 1917 version held 6 rounds, which was, little more. And it was just a really well done gun. Very safe. Worst. There were so many old guns in that war, but if we're talking frontline infantry, I hate to say it, but I'm going to have to go with the 1886 Lebel. Not the Berthier, like we have one on the table here, but the Lebel. That it was mostly due to the tube magazine system, but also the fact that it was very long, the sights were not great, and the 8x50 cartridge was already showing its age by that point. So,
interesting.
Anything to add there before we move to World War II?
I don't know enough to say. It's kind of interesting. I think probably a lot of people would have said like one of the German bolt actions, like the K98.
Mm-hmm.
As far as for the robust action.
The thing is that the P14 uses the Mauser style action, but it was made later. So I think in some ways, for example, personally, I like the safety on it better. I think the sights are better than on the standard Gewehr 98. I like the turn down bolt handle. They weren't doing turn down bolt handles in Germany as a standard. That's a really nice, and I like the kind of semi pistol grip cut stock on the P14 1917. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So for World War II, there wasn't a lot of change in that war. Did he say bolt actions? He did.
He said bolt actions.
Okay, so that rules all that out. So pretty much everything holds true. Moving on, obviously the P14. By that point, the worst. The French had finally gotten rid of Lebel. I'm gonna say, just by virtue of age, the Carcano. Not that I hate the Carcano, I really like it, but it really hadn't seen any notable updates. I would say the Mosin, but it really was the rifle Russia needed during that war, so I don't want to dig into it. And the K98 hadn't really seen many updates either. So yeah, I'm going to say the Carcano is the worst. The best, I'm going to go with, I really like the 03A3, the American 03A3.
Sure.
It was much cheaper and faster to produce than the original, and it had those great peep sights, again, kind of borrowed from the 1917. And it still has a turn-down bolt handle, and everyone knows those things are just god-awful reliable. So, yeah.
And incredibly expensive now if you try to buy one.
Oh, God, yeah.
Next question. Jimmer asks, since AK-74s are getting harder to find a good one, would it be worth it to get a kit and build one, or just get something like the SLR 104 or 105? Also, what kit do you think would be worth it?
Okay, what kit worth it? If I were to build from a kit, I would definitely want a kit with an original barrel. The American 545 barrels, while they're so much better than they were 10 years ago, never have seen as up to snuff as the original Cold Hammer Forged Chrome line. And that bullet comes out at a higher velocity than 7.62, so it has the potential for more wear, more heat buildup, and the Cold Hammer Forge process just makes steel that seems to hold that better long term. Maybe not as accurate as other things, but long term longevity is there. Plus, if you want to shoot corrosive ammo such as the Surplus 7 and 6, you want to make sure you've got a good chrome plating, and the best way to know that is to have the original barrel. But I would still look for a 104 FR or a 105. They're just, or even an SGL 31. They're not coming in right now. Prices are a little higher than they were, but they've kind of fallen a little bit. So I would still, I'm very pleased with mine. Jay, you got a 104 FR. They're just great guns.
Yeah, the 104s are awesome. I think I got two of them, right? One is
you've got a UR. No,
the UR and then the FR.
Right. Oh, another option, if you really don't have the money, is a Romanian gun. They're often overlooked, but you've got like the SAR-2s, the Kerr-2s, and the Wasser-2s. Those are still true blue imports, original barrel, and they're well under 1,000. They're about $750 right now, in good shape. And they take standard mags. They are a little different pattern because they're based on the Ames 74 or the PA 86, but they still shoot 5.45 and they're still a factory gun.
Yeah, I think any of the imports you're not going to be able to go wrong with.
And that's pretty much all there are. There aren't many. They're just, if you're on a budget, go Romanian. If you can afford it, go Russian or Bulgarian.
I have very few guns that are not my favorite to shoot, but the 104 FR is one of my favorite to shoot. Like, it's just, everything about it feels awesome. Very low recoil. It's extremely accurate. It's just overall, it's an awesome AK-74.
And I've never had jams out of mine.
I've had not a single failure with it.
Yep, and it eats up any of the steel case, and it takes all the mags, no mag fitment issues. And if you look at a kit and look at it, it's made identical. It's a factory built gun.
Jeff M. asks, where's the best place besides Gunbroker to find milsurp guns?
In 2018, well, like you said, there's always the pawn shop, Brad.
You may be able to luck into something in a pawn shop.
But that's getting harder.
Yep.
Pawn shops aren't getting as many old guns in, and even when they do, half the time they think they're worth gold because they have internet too.
Yep.
It's never, you can always check, never hurts. What I often do if I'm looking for something, I just tell my gun friends or even post on a forum. Like I was wanting an RPK 74 last year, and I posted, and actually I told one of our Patreons and a customer, and really someone who's become a friend, ZZ Biohazard, that I was looking for one, and lo and behold, he actually gave me a link to one not a few days later, and I was on the phone that Sunday morning with the guy and already had it locked down, and it was really fortunate because a guy had already beaten me to it, and for whatever silly reason, that guy backed out. So yeah, it's usually when I'm looking for something, I just kind of tell my friends. And other than that, gun shows lately have seemed to be busts. I don't even go to them anymore, but even friends that do, I can't remember the last time I've had a friend call me excited after going to a gun show. They just seem, even if they found what they want there, the money's ridiculous.
Yeah. But
Gunbroker is really good. I wouldn't do arms list. I'm very reluctant about arms list, but I picked up a lot of neat stuff on Gunbroker. There's a lot of good sellers on there, like Schrazel, that the guy up in New York who has a lot of cool old guns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the internet's pretty much, I mean, that's just kind of where we're at now, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
So
anything really rare and cool ends up going on there.
Yep. How many cats do you own, and what are their names?
I've lost count, and I think we just started numbering them.
It's too many. I
agree. The wife's gone for a couple of weeks, and I really wish I could find a way to find a couple of them homes and not have her mad at me when she gets back. A couple of them that are more mine. One of our oldest cats is Hobo, who's the gray and white one that hops up on the table occasionally, and Jay says has no neck. She's a stray that showed up a couple of years ago as an older cat. She's a great cat. She doesn't do anything. She just sleeps all day. There's Oscar, who you probably have never seen because he hides in my room most of the days. We've had him a long time too. He's a striped cat. He's actually part bobcat. And there's Peanut, who was in our April Fool's video, who's actually a three-legged cat who was a rescue cat because no one wanted her. She'd been hurt, and she sat at the shelter for 8 months, and the wife found her because she friended the shelter on Facebook. And what am I going to do? There's a three-legged cat that might have gone to, the needle in the sky. So, that's some of them. My wife has a cat, Seamus, and then there's Earl, who's basically the horror cat of the group. He will make anyone friendly because he's just an attention whore.
You see him very often in our videos because he's generally on my shoulders or hanging onto my foot or...
Isn't he hanging off the camera right now?
Yes, actually. So if you see a lot of shaking in the camera, there's a very good chance that Earl is down there trying to...
His color is buff. He's kind of a faded yellow. He's actually a nice cat. He's just an attention whore.
Follow-up question from Aaron Kirkwood. Do they take Glock mags?
To be continued. Here, kitty, 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 kitty.